Hello, this is Mr. Boyer again, and this time we're going to look at margins, sections, columns, and some other formatting techniques that you might need to use for creating things like newsletters. So I've already downloaded the Word.d file. It's on my desktop, and I'm going to go ahead and open that. And when I open this, I'm going to go ahead and ignore the prompts for security and also for updates right now. I don't want to change just yet. Okay, so first thing we need to do is to define what a margin is. Margin is the space located between the edge of the document and the edge of the main body of the text. And there are four margins. There is a top, a left, a right, and a bottom margin. So to modify the margin, it's real simple. Up on the ribbon, we're going to select Layout and select the Margins button over in the Page Setup group. And notice I have a few different settings available to me in here. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom, select Custom Margins. When I go to Custom Margins, I'll get a prompt that allows me to make some changes on the Margins tab. I can set the top, the left, the bottom, the right, also the gutter and the gutter position. While we're here, let's look at a couple of the other options that are available. I can change the orientation of the page. I can make it portrait or landscape. I'm going to keep it portrait, however. For multiple pages, I can mirror the margins. I can also have 2 pages per sheet, or I can do a book fold. So for our purposes, we're just going to stick with normal pages. Okay, so let's go up to the top and look at the margins, and we're going to change the top margin, the left margin, the bottom margin, and the right margin all to 0.8 inches. And when I select OK, notice the text moves a little bit. I have a little less space around the edges, and it looks like I can fit a little more text on one page. So for right now, I'm going to go ahead and turn these the formatting marks off. So I'll click the Show Hide button, turn that off, and we can focus just on our text. So now, this is a newsletter. It involves nutrition, and while there's some really good information in here, it doesn't look very much like a newsletter, mainly because it doesn't have columns. Now if I go to Layout and then go to the Columns button and I select the columns and select the 2 columns, notice it kind of breaks the top of this. I still want nutrition time and the subheading and everything. I want those all available at the top, and I want them all to go right across the top of the document. But I want the rest of the document to be in 2 columns. So the way to do that is to break that into sections. So I'm going to undo the columns, and I'm going to create sections. Now if you notice, down at the bottom we have what's called the status bar, and it starts with the section number, page 1 of 2, the word count, a few different options that are down here. I'm going to right click here. I just want to show you, if you don't see the section, you can simply select this, put the check mark in there, and it'll make sure that it's displayed on the status bar. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. I'm going to go back to my Home tab here, and I want to turn this paragraph button, the Show Hide formatting marks, on. And let's go back to the Layout tab. Now before I do this, I want to make sure that I put the insertion point in the correct position. I'm going to put that right before the word Overview. Okay, now that I've done that, let's go ahead and set the breaks. So when I go up to the top here, I can click the breaks button, and it gives me 2 different kinds of breaks and different variations on each. So I have page breaks and I have section breaks, and I'm concentrating right now on the continuous break, but you can read about each of these breaks and how they work. Some of these may apply to a document that you write in the future. Okay, so looking at the section breaks, I'm going to select continuous break because I want it to be continuous throughout the document. So select continuous, and notice that it puts the section break mark right above where my insertion point was. So it means that everything below there is in section 2, and indeed if I look down at the status bar, I show that I'm in section 2, and if I put the insertion point somewhere in the top section, it changes back to section 1. Okay, well, let's go back into section 2. Now that we've created different sections, I would like to take this time to add 2 columns. So if I go to the top of the screen, I'm going to stay in the Layout tab. I'm going to the Page Setup group. I'm going to select Columns. So I'll click the columns and select 2, and when I do that, notice everything lines up, and it looks a lot more like a newsletter now. Okay, so now that I've done that, let's add just a little bit of formatting. So I have some text down here that starts with read the nutrition labels, and I want to highlight that. I want to make that pop. So one thing that I can do is I can actually put a box around it and highlight it and make it look kind of pretty to stand out. So let's go ahead and highlight this text right here where it says read the nutrition labels on foods. So we're going to highlight that, and I want to go back to the Home tab here, and I'm going to turn the formatting marks off again. Don't think we need to look at those right now, but in the paragraph group I want to pay attention to the Borders button. Click the down arrow and you'll see that there are a bunch of different options. We can add some of these already, but I want to actually go to Borders and Shading so I can have some control over these. Selecting Borders and Shading, I come up with this dialog box, and I can choose different settings, different styles. I can change the color, I can change the width, and I can change where it's applied to. But for this purpose, I want to select box, and I'm going to use the solid line style. I think I want to change that width to 1 point, make it a little bigger, and we're going to select OK. When I do that, notice it puts a box around the text that I had selected. So it makes it stand out a little bit, but I want to go back to it, make some more changes. So clicking inside the box, I go back up to Borders, and in the drop down I'm going to use Borders and Shading again. So let's look at the shading. So I want to add a fill color. I'm going to fill that box up with color. I'm going to come up here and use this light gold accent number 4, lighter by 80%. And we're going to use the clear pattern, and we're going to apply it to the whole paragraph. Clicking OK. Now I've made that pop. I do want to make it inset a little bit. I want to actually shrink it down, and I can change the size of this box pretty easily. If you remember when we did tab stops, we worked with the horizontal ruler. So let's go back to the top here, and if I look at the little square down at the bottom, okay, that's the left indent tab. Now I want to make sure that I've selected something or place my insert point right inside that box. I'm going to go back up to the left indent button and move it over by a 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to come over to the right, and I'm going to use the right indent and also move that over by about 1/2 inch. And we're done. That's it. Looks a lot better, doesn't it? Okay, we're almost ready to print. Until next time, this is Mr. Boyer. See you later.